Thank you for joining us this morning. I hope you are all safe and well and fed and warm. We do have a little bit of snow in Vermont, which cheers us up here. So I hope you're able to get outside and enjoy your elements wherever you are. But for right now, we've had an opportunity to work with some of our federal partners in the Department of the Interior to offer a few keynote addresses. The first one today will be from a dear friend, Hillary Smith, who works for the Department of the Interior. She is going to be talking to us this morning about the Interior Signature Invasive Species Initiatives. So this is a great opportunity to hear about the federal interagency collaboration on aquatic invasive species at that level. And Hillary is a senior advisor for invasive species at the Department of the Interior. She provides leadership and coordination on cross-cutting invasive species policies and planning and programs. She works with the different bureaus and offices and senior officials. And she also serves as a contact for stakeholders on invasive species issues and is a liaison to the National Invasive Species Council. The reason why I know Hillary so well is in her previous position, she worked for the Nature Conservancy in the Adirondack region of New York, which is part of the Lake Champlain Basin. And she worked on directing landscape level invasive species programming with local, state, and federal partners. So without further ado, I am very pleased to introduce Hillary Smith.
Great, thanks so much, Meg. I'm hoping that you can hear me, and see my presentation.
We can.
Perfect, great. Well, thank you for those great opening remarks, Ben, and also for the introduction, Meg. It was great to see those scenes from Lake Placid. I'm sorry I missed that one. I lived in Saranac Lake, just a stone's throw from Lake Placid, and really enjoyed skating on the rinks there. So I'm glad you all got out on the ice. And it's really a pleasure to be invited to speak with you all today and to reconnect with all of my great colleagues in the Northeast. So when Meg invited me to give a talk today, she asked that I talk a little bit about the work that Interior is leading. She thought it would be beneficial to hear about some of the work happening at the national level. So for today's talk, I'll just be focusing at first on the Department of the Interior, just a quick overview, and then I'll go into some of the more signature initiatives that the department has led in recent years. So the Department of the Interior is one of the cabinet agencies in the executive branch, and it is a large organization with a very broad and diverse mission. This includes conserving and managing the nation's natural resources and cultural heritage. We also provide scientific and other information about natural resources and natural hazards. And we honor the nation's trust responsibilities and special commitments to American Indians, Alaska Natives, and affiliated island communities. So under the Department of the Interior, we have 10 different agencies, which we refer to as bureaus or offices. These include the National Park Service, the Bureau of Land Management, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the U.S. Geological Survey, Bureau of Reclamation, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the Office of Insular Affairs, the Office of Surface Mining Reclamation and Enforcement, the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, and the Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement. So there are lots of different agencies under the department, and each of these agencies or bureaus have their own mission and mandates, but they all have some level of involvement with invasive species management, some more so than others. And my role, as Meg mentioned in the introduction, is to work with all of the national program leads in each of these bureaus so that Interior as a whole is moving forward as coordinated, as strategically as possible to advance invasive species management activities. So we were really pleased last year that Congress appropriated $143 million for our work on invasive species across the nation. And this work supported a variety of different strategies to address invasives. We do something called a cross-cut budget within Interior, and this breaks down the investments by category of work. So this includes work on prevention, early detection and rapid response, control and management, research, restoration, education and outreach, and leadership and international coordination. And so a lot of these dollars work to support the operations of all of the programs I mentioned earlier under the bureaus. And they're also often aligned with specific appropriated dollars for high impact target species, many of which you're familiar with, such as Asian carp, zebra and quagga mussels, white nose syndrome, brown tree snake, and other high profile species where specific legislators have identified that it's important to dedicate specific resources for those species. So last year's dollars really bumped up about almost $30 million above the previous fiscal year, and we're still processing the appropriations in the 21 budget. We're hopeful that this continued support will continue. So now I'll transition to some of the initiatives we've been leading in recent years. And although they may not specifically focus on aquatic invasive plants, hopefully you'll see that the approaches that we're undertaking are transmissible to aquatic invasive plants or relatable to aquatic invasive plants. And then some of the initiatives are broad enough that they encompass all taxa. So the first one I wanted to talk about is the Safeguarding the West initiative. And this was really precipitated by a letter from the governor of Idaho at the time to the Secretary of the Interior, asking for Interior to get more engaged on working with Western states to prevent this further spread of zebra and quagga mussels. And the specific event that led to that letter was that there were detections of veligers of zebra and quagga mussels in the state of Montana, and it was in proximity to the Columbia River Basin. And there was great concern of the Columbia River Basin states and partners that if the mussels got introduced, it could have devastating consequences. So this led Interior to lead an interagency effort. So we had 6 different agencies within Interior, together with the U.S. Army Corps and the U.S. Forest Service, with our Western states and Western partners and Western tribes, to identify ways in which Interior could increase our commitments to prevent, contain, and control mussels in the West. And we quickly learned that by preventing invasive mussels in the Pacific Northwest, we needed to contain them at their source. So we took a West-wide approach, and Interior bureaus identified dozens of commitments that we would take in subsequent years to address invasive mussels. And a lot of this work was ongoing. We've been involved in mussel work for decades, but this really allowed us to have a concerted effort and also identify emerging opportunities to work with our state and tribal partners. So we just produced a final report this past fall, and that's available online. And really what some of the key successes of this effort were, I think it helped to really mobilize a more coordinated effort across the 6 bureaus in Interior working on invasive mussels. It also helped to increase resources. I think we leveraged over $56 million in the last 4 years to advance work on mussels in the West. And it elevated attention to invasive mussels and invasive species more broadly at all levels of the organization, at the secretary level down to the site level. So related to that work, we received direction from Congress in fiscal year 2019 for Interior agencies to again work with the Corps and the Forest Service and Western states to focus on building an incident command system framework for mussels in the West. So when we first started our conversations among the federal family and with our partners in the West, we again became aware that the incident command system is a very valuable tool to use for rapid response, but it isn't always the only tool or only framework. And it's really up to the lead agency to determine what framework is most appropriate to the situation. So we broadened the direction from Congress to look not only just at ICS, but more broadly at rapid response in general, and how can we strengthen federal support for leading rapid response efforts with respect to mussels in Western waters. So again, we determined that a memorandum of understanding would be a useful mechanism for the federal agencies to identify ways in which they could work together going forward to strengthen our work on rapid response. So this was signed just this last fall and also is available online. And I just included here some of the different aspects of the MOU. And although this is focused on mussels and generally in the West, the approaches that are included in this MOU really are applicable to all taxa of invasive species. So the MOU calls upon us to work with the lead agencies, which are often states or tribes if on tribal lands, to implement rapid response actions when warranted and at the request of the lead agency. It also promotes the preparing of rapid response plans and mutual aid agreements to help transfer funding as efficiently as possible. It encourages data sharing among different agencies that are collecting data relevant to invasive mussels, and also sharing information on monitoring efforts so that those can be as coordinated as possible and mutually supportive rather than duplicative. And then lastly, there's a section on a number of different actions we could take to enhance preparedness and resource sharing, focusing on environmental compliance, doing equipment sharing, equipment caching, and things like that. So we're now in the process of creating a baseline list of activities that the federal family is undertaking, or at least the signatories of these agencies are taking with respect to mussels in the West. The third item I want to share with you that we're really proud at Interior is having a new DOI invasive species policy. So this is an overarching policy that covers all of the DOI bureaus and offices, and it was signed last summer. I want to just take a moment and read that purpose statement to you. This policy directs bureaus and offices to manage the risk of invasive species in their activities and minimize that risk where applicable and practicable in cooperation with others as appropriate. This includes helping prevent the introduction, establishment, and spread of invasive species, promoting early detection and rapid response, and providing for eradication and control to minimize adverse impacts such as impacts to the environment, human health and safety, cultural resources, recreation, infrastructure, and the economy. So this policy was developed in coordination with the bureaus, and it really was modeled after the executive order from 1999 on invasive species, and it steps down that executive order with additional more practical guidance as it pertains to the Department of the Interior. This executive order was amended by President Obama, and so there's alignment with that order as well. So now this involves having the bureaus to then step down this departmental level policy to the bureaus so that it is appropriate to each of the bureau's missions. So again, if you're involved with partners that are DOI agencies, they are subject to this policy and hopefully are implementing it as such. So we're excited to have this new overarching guidance, and it's related to our new DOI invasive species strategic plan. And so this policy provides more tactical operational guidance on how to step down our broader strategic plan, which is the next milestone. It's been a busy year at Interior under fiscal year 2020. So we do have a new invasive species strategic plan that I hope will be shared shortly. And hopefully you had a chance to hear about it and perhaps be involved in the development through one of our listening sessions. But we were directed by Congress to develop the strategic plan, and it was in the John D. Jingle Jr. Conservation Management Recreation Act, which was a really large law that covered lots of different aspects of natural resources, and part of that bill included some invasive species provisions. So of those provisions that pertain to the Department of the Interior, our office was charged with implementing and coordinating across the bureaus. So one of those provisions was to develop a strategic plan, and to do so in consultation with tribes and in coordination with states and the priorities of governors of states. So at the beginning of the process of developing the plan, we held a series of listening sessions. We invited all of the state governors or their designees. So we did have different state invasive species coordinators or aquatic invasive species coordinators call into those listening sessions. We also invited all of the, we have a county commissioner email list at the department, and so we emailed all of the counties across the nation. We invited tribes to participate, all of our US territories, Alaska Native corporations, and the Native Hawaiian community. So we held a preliminary set of listening sessions to hear what was important to our partners for us to include in this strategic plan. And then we developed the plan again in coordination with DOI bureaus. And then we held another set of listening sessions and consultations just this past fall. And so this was posted in the Federal Register in August, and so we accepted formal public comments, and then, as I said, had a series of listening sessions. So again, this is just for the Department of the Interior. This isn't a federal family-wide strategic plan. It's just for the DOI bureaus and offices. And we developed the plan recognizing that there was a tremendous amount of work already in process through our DOI bureaus. And for example, the Fish and Wildlife Service might have their own invasive species plan, the National Park Service might have their own plan. And so we wanted to make sure that the work that was ongoing was captured in this broader strategic plan. We were also aware that there are a lot of other interagency plans and interagency efforts, such as the Aquatic Nuisance Species Task Force, the National Invasive Species Council, and others. And it was important to us that we promoted coordination with those existing plans. The idea here is to align our efforts so that we're stronger together. So I just want to take a moment and go through the 5 main goals in the plan. And the plan is such that we have mission and vision statement, we have our 5 goals, and under each goal, there are objectives and strategies and associated metrics. So for goal 1, under collaboration, this really is focused on promoting those partnerships, promoting that collaborative conservation. Where there are existing partnerships, we want to promote those, and where new ones might be beneficial, we would help to start those partnerships. This goal also includes leveraging those joint educational efforts that are so important for public awareness. So this includes things like the Stop Aquatic Hitchhikers campaign, as well as the Clean Drain Dry initiative, Clean Play Go, and others. Also embedded within this goal, importantly, is focus on funding. So making known to the public more information about what grants are available through the Department of the Interior, but also leveraging resources that we do have to meet shared priorities. The second goal is focused on prevention, and this is preventing introduction of invasive species into the United States within the authorities of the Department of the Interior, and that largely falls to our U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and their injurious wildlife listings. It also focuses on preventing the secondary spread of invasive species, such as through recreational watercraft. The third goal is focused on early detection and rapid response, and so this is working together with our partners to build out a biosurveillance system such that we're really focused on those priority species and those priority locations, and making sure we have good communication about those early detection programs. This also involves rapid response and making sure that we're able to respond swiftly and efficiently when those detections are discovered and when there are actions that are possible to be taken. The fourth goal is about control and restoration, and so we're well aware that there are lots of established infestations that need our attention, and this is focused on really, again, identifying where are those priority infestations and locations where we have a high likelihood of success of eradication or control and suppression. This is also focused on promoting those policies, programs, and practices that enable restoration following invasive species management. And the fifth goal is about data management. And there's been a big emphasis, I think, in recent years among our variety of national data aggregators to make sure that we have good data, accurate data, and data that is shareable and accessible. And so that's really why we wanted to emphasize the importance of data and data in decision making in the strategic plan. And then we have a set of cross-cutting principles that you see there at the bottom of the slide. And these are really approaches that are essential to implement across implementation of all of our strategies and really guide our work. And as I mentioned, we do have a set of metrics as well. This was one of the areas of public comment that people were disappointed we didn't put forward more quantifiable metrics in the draft plan. We did add additional ones and recognize that we have more work to do going forward with respect to performance measures with invasive species. And that is an area where we're looking for input from our partners too on what you think would be useful measures when it comes to invasives. So the strategic plan I just outlined, I know is more kind of conceptual in nature. So I wanted to step that down a little bit and share just a few examples of what we really mean when we're talking about the work that Interior is undertaking. Because as I said, the strategic plan really is intended to capture the work that's already ongoing by our many different bureaus. So I picked 3 bureaus that are operating in the Northeast, and I asked for some examples of work that is in process. So perhaps these are projects that you've even been involved in yourself or benefited from. So the first is one from the National Park Service. They're developing a strategic planning tool for prioritizing invasive species management, specifically on parklands, to really identify, we can't be everywhere and work on everything. So how can we really determine where we should focus our limited resources? The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Fisheries and Aquatic Conservation Program, is working on genetic tools to enhance early detection efforts. The Refuge Program in the Northeast recently finalized a regional protocol framework for the inventory of invasive plants on refuge lands. And the USGS, together with partners in New York and Massachusetts and others, are organizers of this Northeast Regional Invasive Species and Climate Change Management Network, which is just a powerhouse of information connecting science to managers and preparing for climate change. There are also a series of initiatives at the national level, also focused on tool development to help managers make informed decisions. And these are largely related to helping to set priorities, looking at species and developing species watch lists that are coming into the nation, and also helping to identify specific invasion hotspots where we may want to focus detection and response efforts. There are also efforts through the Refuge and National Park Service, a Refuge Program and National Park Service, just continue to enhance their strike teams or invasive plant management teams, and hopefully in time strengthen those as broader interjurisdictional teams. So there's a wealth of information and work happening within the DOI bureaus. And if you have any questions at any time about the work that we're undertaking, about these projects or others, please feel free to reach out to me and I can connect you with the right people. So I focused a lot on the Department of the Interior. I want you to know that interagency coordination is really important to us. We're a proud member of the National Invasive Species Council. In fact, we're a co-chair. This is a council that was set up in 1999 by executive order of that is comprised of 12 different federal agencies and 4 White House offices. And the staff of the council is also housed at Interior. But their role is really that interdepartmental coordination. And you'll be hearing from Stash Virgil tomorrow about the work of NISC and their work plan. So just a little teaser for his talk tomorrow. And as Meg mentioned, we're also, a number of our DOI bureaus are a member of the Aquatic Nuisance Species Task Force. So we're actively involved in that arena as well. So looking ahead, we have this new shiny invasive species strategic plan, which again, hopefully will be released very shortly. And we're excited to continue our good work on invasives within the Interior bureaus, but also with our partners. And then we have a new administration coming on and a new secretary. And so we'll be standing at the ready to work with a new team and help to elevate the importance of invasive species and look for the intersections with the priorities that do come out and how we can help advance a shared body of work. So we're really excited about the opportunities ahead and are so grateful for the partnership across the nation, really, of everybody leaning in on this really important issue. So again, hopefully some of the themes that stood out to you today are the importance of partnerships and Collaborative conservation, that is certainly one of the foundational elements of our approaches for invasive species management. Also, the emphasis on early detection and rapid response. There are a lot of efforts focused in the interagency arena on how we can, again, take that from concept to practice and make sure we have a robust program. Also, the importance of investing in science and research to make sure we have the best technologies and methods for prevention, detection, and control. And finally, providing decision support tools so decision managers can use that science and apply it in their work. So with that, I again thank you for the opportunity to talk with you today, and I wish you a really great conference, and I look forward to talking with you if you have any questions for me. Thank you.